This conference will now be recorded.
So ये conference record हो रही है, अगर उसकी objection है तो please leave. I hope nobody's going to leave, but I work on the privacy, so I have to ask this question.
Yes, thank you very much. I was going to say that, but thank you, really appreciate it.
So if anybody don't want to be recorded, you know, it's your choice, either to stay or leave. I have invite Dilar bhai on.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam. So I called the reason this thing started. I called Dilawar bhai last week, and I says about I asked him whether I need a good lawyer or something to write some kind of will. Then Dilawar bhai had mentioned your name, so then I contacted you. वहाँ से ये सिलसिला शुरू हुआ. तो thank you यासिर भाई, आप ये session के लिए you know काफी काम किए हैं. तो thank you Dilawar bhai providing me this his number.
You're welcome.
So inshallah, I don't know how many people are still on, but hopefully, you know, log ऐसा join होंगे.
12 लोग हैं.
12 लोग हैं. Inshallah, yeah. We'll start this process. Bismillah, Yasir bhai, you take it away.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu. Hassan Saab, thank you very much. Really appreciate your help. And Dilawar Saab, thank you very much for introducing me to Hassan Saab. It was a pleasure talking to him.
You're welcome.
Basically, my seminar is a little bit different way. Instead of having, we will go through all the PowerPoint presentations. But if anybody have any questions, they can stop me and ask me. I would like to have an interaction between everybody. So maybe one person is thinking the same question, but they hesitate to ask. So we will start with the presentation. The topic is having a state planning for Muslims in United States. The reason it is one of the very very important subject for Muslims, especially because not just living in United States, also because being a Muslim, it is ordered in Quran and Sunnah to follow and have well drawn within 2 days of having anything to banquet. As for Prophet ﷺ said that you know, if you have anything to banquet, don't leave 2 nights before you can, you know, you have a last will and testament withdrawn it. Also, you know, in a Quran, it's more, you know, there's more emphasis on Islamic state planning, wills and trust and everything, than have even Salat and a lot of other elements of Islam. We pray 5 times a day, but in Quran you will never find a place that shows, you know, when, how many rakats, how to pray. But when we come to the inheritance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala define every single concept, every percentage of father, son, wife, daughter, because being a human, we can't justify and we can't be as just as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A reason for just for the example, if you have a son who's only 5 years old and father is 85, and you say that, you know, instead of giving everything to your father, why don't I give it to my son because he have to live his whole life? But Allah says in the Quran that you do not know who's more benefit to you. So you have to distribute according to Quran. My background, I'm going to start with the basic background, some disclaimers. Okay. So we are a financial brokerage firm. We provide comprehensive financial services from insurance to investment to estate planning. Islamic state planning is very dear to our heart because we did a lot of research. I've been in a financial field since 2007. My background history to coming in the financial field, my father unfortunately passed away in 2005 at age 45. Then when I, you know, assessed the local Islamic community or Muslim Pakistan and Indian subcontinent community, we don't emphasize on estate planning or we don't emphasize on a financial planning. One person passed away in US will have a consequences in US as well as back home, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. All those countries will suffer. So it was my mission. I carry on. I say, I need to educate our community. I need to focus on it. I need them to protect themselves and protect their asset and their family. That was my reason to come in. 2 years later, we have a lot of Muslim clients and they leave their assets according to, Sharia. And then we tried to find attorneys, but we couldn't find reputable attorneys that they know Sharia law as well as American law, both sides. So I combined a couple of attorneys. We did a couple of years research to basically combine Islamic Sharia law with American law. Islamic law dictates.
Will seminar. आप भेजे ना? अरे seminar का.
Excuse me, can someone put on the mute if you're not talking?
हाँ, मेरे को भेजे and then मेरे को reminder भी भेजे.
Okay. So Islamic law dictates the way what we need to distribute, how we need to distribute, and whom we need to distribute. Every share is defined in the Quran for every single person. But American law requires that will need to be written, will need to be executed, will need to be witnessed, and will need to be majority of the state need to be notarized before it be active. But it does not dictate that whom you give any shares to anybody. Second part, that's one part of the will. We're gonna go in detail. So basically, disclaimer is that this legal information is basically provided for information basis only, and you must not rely on this information contained in seminar as alternative to receiving a legal advice from an attorney. If you have any specific questions about any legal matters, you should consult with an attorney, or you should never delay seeking a legal advice. Disregard legal advice, any promise, or discontinue any legal actions because of information contained in this. Plus, if you have, gonna basically keep a journal.
Yes, Yasir bhai, मैं आपको stop कर सकता हूँ 1 मिनट के लिए.
Yes.
Request दिलावर भाई, अगर आपका phone mute कर दिए तो बेहतर है. I think disturbance is from your.
How to do it? You need to tell me.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Just hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, please go ahead, Yasir bhai. Thank
Okay.
you.
No worries.
Did it.
No, still not mute.
It's not me, but anyway, I muted my phone.
Okay. Bismillah.
All right. So we got Akatullah. Can you please go unmute if you was. Okay. All right. So secondary, back to the legal matters. If you have any specific questions about your personal situations, I would love to have a one-on-one conversation instead of sharing that idea with everybody. So if you have a general question, you can ask me, but if you have a personal specific questions about your situations, my phone number is on every single page of the slide, and you can take it on, you can give me a call. And then we can have one-on-one conversation about your situations. So basically, we are talking about a forgotten fard, which inheritance. It's been mentioned countlessly in the Sunnah and in in Quran. For example, Prophet Muhammad said, "The learn inheritance and teach it, for it is half of the knowledge, and it will be forgotten, and it will be the first thing will be taken away from my ummah." So if you look at these scenarios these days, there's very few people emphasizing on this matter than a lot of other things. Very few people focus, and they have a proper distribution compared to American law. Learn inheritance and teach it to other people. Knowledge will be discreet until two people will differ among themselves and other inheritance, but would not find it arbitrator. So the hadith says that there will be a time that people will be fighting against each other. You can see those matters in Pakistan, India, especially, that there's a lot of fights on inheritance, on land and property and everything. I own family have issues on it. So, but you can't find a person who can come and give them proper advice.
Are the slides also? I mean, I don't see any slides. Are you showing the slides too?
Yeah, we are
Yes.
showing the slides on computer, so probably you are on a phone.
I'm on the phone. Yeah, that's why.
Okay, I will send you an email after the whole presentation afterward.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
no worries.
Bilal
Other,
bhai, if you swipe your screen to the right, you can see the slides.
What I need to do?
उसको स्क्रीन को ना राइट साइड पे स्वाइप करें, ऊपर आप देखेंगे तो दो छोटे छोटे डॉट्स नजर आ रही हैं, एक ऑरेंज है और एक
Right.
तो अगर
Right.
आपको
Okay.
स्वाइप करके दूसरे चले जाएंगे फिर आपको स्क्रीनें भी नजर आ जाएंगी.
I see the dot. Okay. And
आपके सामने जो स्क्रीन है ना जिसपे आपको शकील साहब नजर आ रहे हैं,
जी
आपको ना आप स्वाइप कर दे राइट साइड की तरफ.
अच्छा आ गया. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
thank you. Okay,
Dilar,
so today
you owe him lunch. Okay, Dilar bhai.
Oh, I finished my lunch about 10 minutes ago.
just talking to Dilawar Saab is also, it's more important than having a lunch with him. So, basic back onto this. Today's agenda is what is estate planning? Who needs estate planning? What makes it Islamic? Components of estate planning and question answers.
Good.
So, what is estate? Estate comprise of all your assets, all your, if you have a life insurance, your jewelry, your car, your house, your business, your checking saving account, as well as your retirement assets. If you have 401k, any other Roth IRA or any assets you have, they are combined into estate. The goal of estate planning is to control your property while you are alive, take care of ourselves, and if we become disabled or our loved ones when we passed away. So properly distribution channel, setting up a proper distribution channel, protecting your assets when you're alive, and also distributing your assets to your family upon your death or anything happen. Also save every tax dollar professionally and professional fees, and court fees legally possible. We're not going to have any non-legal or any, cutthroat or any, way to cut any taxes, but there are legal ways that you can reduce. I will go into the benefit of state planning and what you can save on taxes. What makes Islamic? So in Quran, Allah says that it is ordained to you when death approach any of you and it leaves wealth. It makes fair testament in favor of his parents and near relative, a duty upon those who have taqwa. This is from Surah Baqarah, and also in Surah Nisa. We're going to focus more on Surah Nisa because it gives a more definition and describes well. There's a share from man, there's a share from woman, and from what is left by parents, those nearest relative, whether the property is small or large. Then, as I read the hadith, this is one of very important hadith from Ibn Majah. Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, said, a man may do a good deeds for his 70 years, but if he acts unjustly when he leaves his last testament, the wickedness of his deed will be sealed upon him, and he will be entered into hell, into hellfire. On the other hand, if a man acts wickedly for 70 years, but he's a just in last will and testament, a goodness of his deed will be sealed upon him, and he will be entered into gardens of heaven. So it shows that how important this subject and this topic is. Introductions to Islamic inheritance law. So what
Yes,
are
but
yeah.
agenda, the agenda you had, you only talking about state planning, but you're going to talk about whether we should have a state versus cooperation versus trust.
We will go. Yeah, we will go on all those subjects.
Okay.
Yeah, we will handle all those step by step. And I will also tell you what, where's your corporation is more beneficial than your trust, and if your trust should have owned corporation or not. So, introduction to Islamic law: funeral, burial expenses always come first. Paying any debt, wasiyya is 1/3 of your assets. So, if you own 100%, only 1/3 is yours to decide what to do and how to do, and whom to distribution. And then the distribution, Sharia distribution to your family. Surah Nisa, Ayah 11 and 12 describes every single shares for every single descendant, every your family members, and also tells that if you don't have any family member, children, then what happens to your assets. Then Surah 13, I'm gonna skip a little bit, I'm gonna go a little bit faster because we have about 35, 40 different slides. So some of these. Surah 13 is a short, basically it says tilka hududullah man yutillah rasulahu yudhil jannatin tajri min tahtiha al-anharu khalidina fiha zalikal fawzul azim. So it says these are the limits set by Allah. Whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger will be admitted by Him to the garden in paradise under which rivers flow, abiding eternally therein, and that is the great attainment. So basically, the goal is not to have just the earthly benefit that you have while you are living. You have a benefit, you have a tax benefit, you have proper distribution. Your family is saved from a lot of fights and a lot of conflicts. Also have a benefit of thereafter that Allah promised that if you follow the rules and regulation of distribution of Quran, Allah will put you grant you heaven. And the 14th ayah says that and whoever disobey Allah and His Messenger and transgress His limits, He will put into fires and abide eternally therein. He will be humiliated, and it will be humiliating punishment. If you don't obey, there's a punishment afterwards. All right. So basically, what minimum documents we need to have a state planning? What is estate planning, and what we need? There are, minimum. The most basic thing is you have to have a last will and testament. You have to have a durable financial power of attorney, and you have to have advanced medical directive. And then if you more comprehensive, if you own a lot of assets, then you should go into having trust planning and properly living revocable trust, a non-revocable trust. They come in handy.
Ziaba, I had a question. What is the definition of? Can you go back to the previous slide, please?
Sure.
What does that mean when you say last testament, last will and testament? I understand last will, but what is testament?
So testament is a word for in American legal, legal language. Testament is that you are testifying your last will to be accurate. So you are making a test.
Is there a legal document in addition to last will, or is there a separate document,
No.
or is it?
It's the same name for both. So, for example, advanced healthcare directive, also called a living will. So, last will and testament is the title for having a last will. And the reason it says last will, even though you change in your lifetime when you're living, because many states use advanced medical directive as a living will, which dictates your medical affairs. And having a last will basically shows that how to distribute your property. I hope I answer your questions.
Yeah, I think as you organically go through that slide deck, inshallah,
Yes.
We'll clarify further. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
A will must meet the basic state requirement. Must be 18 state, capacity. A tester must be sound mind and free will, and understand that he and she is signing. So basically, if somebody have Alzheimer's or medical situation, they cannot proceed. you can't have them signing as a tester. A will must be writing and valid. So, and then there's some state they take a holographic will, which is handwritten will, and you don't have to type. But majority of state, it's better to have a will written, witness, testing, and also have notarized. There must be at least one beneficiary of a will. This is a legal way to have it. All right. Pros and cons. Benefit of lost will and testament. So pros is the name guardian for kids. To me, the biggest assets I have is my kids, because you want them to grow according to your wishes, your commands, and your the way of your life. I do not want a state to come in, for God say anything happened to me and my wife. I don't want a state to come and take my kids to foster care, or raise as a non-Muslim or anything. Secondary, personal representative for your state, which is called executor. If you don't appoint an executor and your state goes to the court, then court appoints the executor. Their cost could be 5 to 10% of your total assets. That's one fees that you are reducing by your having a will drawn. And then you dictate the segregate probate assets. So basically, you distribute properly. Will must go through probates. So if you just have a will, it must go through a court process, a probate process, which is basically distributing or transferring properties from a dead person to a live. Doesn't control jointly owned assets with beneficiary designation. Minimum tax planning. And also one other thing I will add is not you cannot hide your assets in there. It's open to all your creditors and everybody. Conflict with state law and Islamic. So under the Islamic law, in the will, basically, if you don't have a will written, anybody can inherit from it, and which can be conflict under the Islamic law. For example, wife from different faith, if they inherit, they are not supposed to inherit under Islamic law. You can give them from your 1/3 shares, which is yours to give to anybody. Non-Muslim parents, non-Muslim children's, adopted children's, in-laws, all step relationships, stepchild, stepmothers, children's born on a wedlock, and convicted murders of testers. So, for example, we had a scenario that in New York, Pakistani family, teenager kid had an argument with his father and he killed him. So father had quite a few businesses, but he did not inherit any of those assets from it. Serious consequences of debt. So debt need to be paid off, no matter what kind of debt is. For example, we go debt to Allah is unpaid zakat, unaccomplished hajj. If you can afford and you haven't done that, fasting in Ramadan, kufara, unjust law, and also this is a debt to people: credit card payment, car loans, mortgage loans, home equity loans. And also one of the things we always neglect is a donation we pledge to our idaras, our masjid, and our community center, that we go ahead and pledge in the weight of everybody's commotions, but after that we forget to pay for it. That's also a debt on you. Loans from a bank, any other anybody, if somebody gave you any amanas that you have to watch over, those are the things. Borrowed items and taxes. Life insurance in Islamic law. So there's quite a few different outcomes on life insurance. You should have, you shouldn't have, but there's a few things. Number one, life insurance comes after the death. It does not, you do not have a control over it. But upon death, basically it takes about 3 to 4 weeks before you get your death benefit payments, and so that's one thing. Second, Life insurance also can be used to pay off your debt. If you have a house, if you have any loans, if you have any other loans to anybody, you can use a life insurance proceeding to pay for those loans and pay them off completely. Documents required for a state. So last will we talk about it. Advanced medical directive, which is this is one of the important documents to have in the U.S. It's also called living will. Basically, it outlines the way you want to be buried, the way if you want to have organ donation or not, you want to have your uh, autopsy done, or how you want to be basically treated when in case you become in a coma, or if you are in hospitalized, and who should make a final decision for you. And then we have a durable power of attorney, financials. So in case if you can handle your financial situations, you need to have a person who will go on your place and who can handle your financials. Could be accessing your bank account, to selling selling okay.
I
Selling,
think our boy is not on mute.
yeah. So I can do it. But having sorry, just a second. Okay, financial durable power of attorney is handles on those scenarios. Um, Advanced medical directive also dictates if you want to be buried here, if you want to be buried, or if you want your bodies to be taken overseas, India, Pakistan, or wherever. So, or so those are very critical situations. In my personal situations, we had to transport my father, my grandmother, and everybody insisted that we take him to Pakistan, but we did not have any control. If we have these documents, we will love to have him. The worst thing is, in almost 20 years, we only able to visit, about 15 years, able to visit Pakistan for 3-4 times. We always miss that. Probate. Probate is a process of taking a possession from deceased to delivering to living persons, and paying all the debt, all the claims, all the taxations, and all the creditors. So if you just have a will and you have loans and debts and creditors, they can come after a probate system, and they can file a claim against your state and accept it. And if you don't have a will, it's then you have costing. But if you just with a will, it costs about 6 to 10% of your total estate to go through probate, and plus it takes about 3 months to 2 years to have a probate system done. Document for living trust, and what is living trust and how does it benefit? So go on a little bit advanced. The revocable living trust of husband and wife, last will, last testament. So these are for the advanced planning. We will have a revocable living trust for both husband and wife. We can use AME trust, or we can use separate trust. Last will for both husband and wife, living wills, medical directive for both husband and wife, power of attorney, also warranty deeds or quitclaim deeds, which is transferring your property to your trust. Without a valid will, your state attested and perceived law applies. A state will distribute your wealth according to predefined rules. Everybody have equal shares. There's violating Islamic inheritance law. Non-Muslim may become entitled to your wealth. Probate court appoints executor, guardian for your children. You cannot make request thus depending. Go ahead. And if no relatives ever come up and they claim your go through probate, or they claim that they are relative, all your estate is owned by Uncle Sam and go to state. So basically, the worst thing, we live here, comfortably, but we have to plan for the dying. So if you think you are going to die, then that basically everybody does at least once in their lifetime, So three options we have. With no will, no trust, state distribute everything, Islamic inheritance is violated. Loss of charitable opportunity, you cannot have a sadaqah jariyah on it. Time consuming, fees, lawyers, loss of privacy, and a lot of vulnerability to all the claims. With the will, no trust. The state will distribute according to Islamic law. Opportunity or charitable will can be challenged. Federal, state taxes, probate, court procedures. Time consuming, cost of fees, lawyers, loss of privacy, and some claims can be done on it. With the trust. Trust, let me go a little bit in deep on a living revocable trust and why it is very, very beneficial for Muslims to have. Number one, you can protect your assets if you are in in certain high vital business areas. Like if you can have a lawsuit against you, you can basically protect your assets under the trust, and it will be very hard for people to come after. So, for example, in a medical field, if a doctor or if they own a clinic, they always have a risk of getting a lawsuit against them. So if they put their trust assets in the trust, they can literally protect their assets, and then if anything happened to them, they can at least their assets, their private properties are fully protected on it. Also, you can set it up for charitable. Trust does not have a probate; it's a living entity. Basically, on a probate system, if everything happens or anything happens to your husband, the whole system goes to the court. Will see that trust is in place, and then judge will order that, all right, just follow the trust and go through it, and basically transfer everything to it. It will save the cost of probate. It will save the cost of appointing executor. Also, it will save a lot of time and a lot of effort. What we do as a backup and have a robust package planning or protection plan, we will have a trust, and then we have a lost will as well. And will becomes a pour-over will. What it does is whatever your assets are not in your trust, it will transfer all your assets to the trust. So it's a double protection. And the third layer is basically having a power of attorney. You can transfer a second. Yeah, we had a question about trust and corporations. So, for example, I'm going to take a medical scenario. For example, a dentist owns a clinic, have all the patients and everything, and runs the clinic and everything. For God's sake, anything happened to him, and there's no trust in place or nothing in place. So his assets are his clients, his patients. As soon as they find out that their dentist is gone, they will start leaving the practice and they will start reducing the net worth, assets of their business. So best thing is to have a trust, and trust owns a business. The benefit of that is that for God's sake, anything happened to the doctor or dentist, wife or any trustee who comes up, they can go and liquidate that business right away. They can sell it. They can do whatever they have to do instead of waiting for a court to go through 6 to 12 months or up to 2 years. Court allow them to sell it. At that time, nobody will do anything for them to just go ahead and sell it. It is having a corporation under the trust is very beneficial. If you own a rental properties, I always advise to have a rental property under so if you have a rental property, just on the good source is you should protect each property under LLC, because if you have multiple properties, it is very risky. And if you have a lawsuit from one tenant, it can go up and wipe your other estate, and you can have a complex matter on you. But if you each property, you can have a one general corporation and have multiple LLC underneath it. The benefit of limited liability corporation is that if a lawsuit or anything happen, it will be comprised under that LLC. They can only go to the limit or the value of that LLC. And having again trust owns all the corporations is beneficial. The transition is very complete, robust, and very protective and private. No creditor can come and penetrate it. Only the document or the ability to go any property.
Yes, sir,
इमरान,
question.
आपको दिलावर भाई को समझा सकते हैं कैसे म्यूट करते हैं? आपके पास
मेरा म्यूट नहीं है।
नहीं
नहीं नहीं जनाब, काफी डिस्टर्बेंस है आपका फोन से। अगर आप फोन को अगर स्टेशनरी रख दिए तो प्रॉब्ली बेटर रहेगा।
या म्यूट कर दिए। इमरान, आप बता सकते हैं किस तरह म्यूट करते हैं?
म्यूट किया हुआ मैंने। म्यूट में
नहीं
ये
हुआ
जो
हुआ है। फिर से दबाएं और एक दफा दबाएं खाली उसको, म्यूट को।
हाँ, एक ही मरतबा मैंने स्विच को ऑफ कर दिया।
दिलर भाई, अगर म्यूट नहीं कर सके तो आप फोन एक जगह रख दीजिए। don't hold the hand, don't hold your phone on your hand.
Okay.
भाई जहाँ
Thank you, भाई, sorry.
ऊपर एक कार का निशान बना हुआ है, उस कार के निशान को आप दबाएं तो वहां पे म्यूट और अनम्यूट का बटन है। वैसे तो नीचे भी है, जहाँ तस्वीरें आ रही हैं वहीं पे म्यूट का बटन है, इसको दबा दे तो म्यूट हो जाता है।
यह सब एक क्वेश्चन है मेरे जो
please.
So because if I have rental properties and the tenant sue me, for instance, is she gonna sue me as a person or as a LLC?
So
because I have a rental, I have two rental with two LLCs.
Yes. Okay, so basically, if I'm a tenant, I will go and research about a person that, what is more beneficial and more, I would like to get as much money as possible. I'm thinking on the back side. So I will do full research. If I put your name in your company's database, they can let me know that how many properties you own, what other assets you have. So they can technically, depending on scenario, they can go after both your LLC as well as your personal, depending on situation. But if you have an LLC and you only comprise them under there, it does put them that, your other assets are protected. They are, for example, if you have property A and B, and property A, they have any losses, they can try to do it, but as your business, you can only say, all right, this property is under my LLC. I will go ahead and file, bankruptcy on this LLC. I'm just going to discontinue, or they can only do. So they will only go after your LLC just on the business.
Is my umbrella policy will play any role in this part?
You should have umbrella policy. It is very cost effective to protect your assets. You should have an umbrella policy for as much as your assets are. If you have $5 million assets, you should have at least $5 million umbrella coverage on it. That does play very big effective because we have some music singing. Because umbrella coverage, we had a famous Hulk Hogan, famous wrestler. What happened to him? His son was driving, and his son had a friend in his car, and they both driving, got into accident. The son's friend become paralyzed, and he had 10 million. His asset at that time, exceed $10 million. So he had $10 million of umbrella coverage. They put a lawsuit against him. They went through everything. The umbrella policy did pay $10 million to the kid and protected his assets. I will advise every single, clients and every single person to have, if you are in that risky business or if you're doing, because if you have an LLC and you have umbrella coverage, you can also write off your expenses, but give you added protection on it. Any other questions?
So for the tenant, I mean, she can or he can say, you know, you have your house has a mold and this and that, then you have medical expense piling up. Your tenant is negligent, you know, my landlord is negligent, is always complain, he doesn't do anything. So what kind of lawsuit somebody can file against LLC?
So that comes in a different kind of legal practice, but they can literally go after and they say that you know, it's your um, problem to take care of it. They can go after for medical expenses also if there's kids, because mold does affect kids' brain, and they can go for deeper, extensive, you know, lawsuit. But depending on what kind of legal services and attorneys they have involved, they're working. Second thing is, there's a lot of attorneys, they will do it for free just to, you know, annoy as a homeowners. You can go and get the attorney and they will go through all the process and they say, you know, I will collect the fees when I get you the money. So obviously you need to protect. I can find a couple of, I have few attorneys connection with me that they goes and they are on, you know, criminal justice and lawsuit on that scenario. I can actually put you in touch with one of those persons who can really guide you or help you on, you know, how to protect your assets on that side.
Because I have we have my friend has a situation, that's why I'm asking this question.
Yeah, no worries. I can, you know, find out exactly, and then we can figure out the best possible way to protect yourself. But again, you know, having those assets and having at least putting in LLC and all the other scenarios, it is very, you are doing as much as possible to protect yourself.
I'm done. Thanks.
Anybody else have any questions on trust so far?
I have a quick question about estate planning.
Yes.
You said that when I have umbrella policy,
Yes.
I can deduct that in my rental property.
So basically, it depends on your CPA. How he obviously umbrella policy comes with your you know, property and casualty sides, and it is one of the expense as a business expense that you are paying your pocket, you know, to cover your property and, you know, in case anything happens. So any expense comes on that side, it should be deductible depending on your CPA. Some CPA are okay to do it, but some CPA will hesitate and try to, you know, stay away from it. But you should be able to write off your umbrella coverage as a, you know, your business expense.
Oh, okay, good, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mm-hmm.
And if you have certain businesses in medical or some other business, there's another policy called business overhead expense, which is also 100% tax deductible.
Business overhead.
Yeah, business overhead expense. So if you have running businesses and for God's sake, anything happen or any situation or you become a disabled or something, those expenses, that policy will pay, you know, rents and fees and, you know, salary for your employees, and which is 100% tax deductible to business owner.
Oh, okay, okay. That's good to know. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So what is a living trust? A legal entity, revocable, you keep your control, you have a pour over will on it, you have A and B trust. A and B trust is basically we combine husband and wife, and if anything happened to one person, the property will distribute to the second person. So maximizing, you know, inheritance tax benefit on it.
Yes, one follow-up question on LLC.
Yes.
If somebody sue you, but let's say your LLC is not in a good standing according to the state.
Yes.
Then let's say you pay the fees, pay $800, $300, whatever, plus then your LLC becomes revived. then back to good standing in probably in 2 days or in 1 week. Depends how much money you pay to expedite your services.
Yes.
But during bad standing, not good standing, if somebody sue you, then what happened?
Then you are taking a risk on yourself, because your LLC should be protecting and should be good orders in order to protect.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. So components of a trust, 4 components. A founder, a trustee, beneficiary, a trustee, the trust properties. Then that was the main presentation, and then this is I love this statement. इंसान एक ऐसा गाफल मंसूबा साज है, अपनी सारी प्लानिंग में कभी अपनी मौत को शामिल ही नहीं करता. So that came up when we was doing research, that we need to plan for an end. As for other services, we provide a lot of other, any insurance and comprehensive planning and college planning and all those services as well. All right, now we are at the questions. Anybody have any questions, any concerns? Nobody? I'm that good?
So looks like I'm the only one talking. Okay, if let's say do you think it's better to transfer all the houses to the kid's name? Is beneficial safe, or as long as you have a trust, then you don't have to do anything?
So if you transfer your houses to your kids, then you still pay taxes, you still pay all the assets and everything. Then you have a taxations, you will have a deed cost, you will have all the expenses that occur. Because consider, if you're living and you're transferring the deed, consider a sale of the property. But if you transfer it to your trust and your kids are the trustee on the trust, then you are only transferring instead of you personally owning it, manager of the property, the trust is living and protected. Do you understand the point?
No, I think my question more focused. Let's say I don't want to own any property right now. I want to transfer every single property to my kid's name.
Okay.
The reason I'm doing is because let's say I'm reaching 60, 65, 75, then something, God forbid, happens to me. Then state or federal government, they're going to look into you, say, okay, this guy has $1 million worth of properties.
Yeah.
So some benefits, I can lose some kind of benefits that way.
You can lose benefit if anything happened to you. For example, if you transfer, you're talking about medical benefit as far your. I think you're talking about your health care and Medicaid and Medicare, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it does point, but if you, for God's sake, anything happened to you within 5 years of transferring your assets to your kids, they can still come back. Instead of Maryland have a 5-year law that if you transfer your assets to somebody within 5 years of your, becoming light on a state, you're still liable to pay for it. But if you can also, it's up to you, because if you transfer your property to a trust, then trust own your assets. Then you personally don't own your assets. Your house is not yours, it's under the trust. You manage the trust.
So what about corporations? Probably, what are the pros and cons, trust versus corporation?
So as I say, the corporation, there should be, corporation is limiting your exposure. They're giving the protection into your individual businesses.
Yes, you're coming in and out. I'm not sure whether it's my mic or yours. I'm not sure.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, so corporation gave you limited, protection on your each businesses, right? But your trust can own all those businesses, and for God's sake, anything happen to you can be an easy transaction to your next trustee, or it does protect on a bigger level.
But for the corporation, you have to pay taxes and things like that. Not
Yeah.
trust. You don't have to do. You don't have to pay taxes.
So the trust, if your trust own a corporation, your taxations will be still same.
Okay.
You do not need to get another tax ID for your trust. You can use the same as your Social Security, because you are just becoming as your own manager for your assets, and you're basically putting a safeguard front of your property, your personal assets, that they are protected. Majority of the time, when you have a trust in place, 90% of the chance they will deter the people away that this person already took time to protect their assets. It's hard to penetrate the trust. You can penetrate it, but it's much more difficult than having just a property on your personal own.
So with your experience, Yasir bhai, how is the Indo-Pak communities? Are they more leaning towards trust or cooperation?
So basically, situation again, you are taking it's not versus. It's basically corporation owns a trust. A trust owns a corporation. You take the corporation to, I have 6 different corporations, and my trust owns all those corporations, right? So if anything happened to me, my trustee, next person comes in charge, they are control of all of my 6 different corporations. Instead of having a corporation and they go and find it and transfer and pay the taxations and pay everything, my trust owns all the corporation and it goes to the next trustee, and they are, this easy transaction, easy transfer of your assets. Instead of having individual corporations, corporation is much cheaper, but you have to maintain it, you have to carry on, which you have to do under the trust. But the trust giving you much bigger protection, and again, you don't have to pay probate upon your death to transfer your assets. It's a seamlessly, you don't have to wait from the court to give you order to go ahead and sell your corporation. It's much more easier and convenient on the people after.
Yasir bhai, Assalamu alaikum. It's a quick question. This is Fasih. So just one clarification I wanted to ask. So what about the 401k beneficiaries? If do the beneficiaries are given over a will?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a great question, actually. Beneficiaries always have a power over the will. So if you have a 401k and their thing happens that, person got into divorce and their ex-wife is still a beneficiary of the 401k, so she will receive all your benefits. You have to, the beneficiary always supersede your will.
Okay, so I mean, so what is the best way here to do? I mean, for 401ks, especially in America, I mean, those are our biggest assets here, technically, than the house or so. How will that work, given the distribution of, according to Islamic?
So the way, if you have, for example, I'm going to tell you from the trust side first. So if you have a trust, right, your trust owns your bank account. It's as simple as easy that you can, there's 2 ways. You can transfer your 401k and have your trust beneficiary of your 401k as well as your life insurance as well. Because life insurance is also a, fastest equity. You can buy $1 million term life for a few $100, and then, you have $1 million of your assets. So those, you can transfer the beneficiary to trust, and then the trust have a distribution of according to Sharia. As well, if you are using a will, then what you do is like once you know all your percentage of your family members, and then you can use, for example, if you have 100,000 or $1 million in your 401k, you can distribute according to your distribution on a will. You can have beneficiaries on your 401k.
So the will can still dictate the distribution of the beneficiaries. Well, I mean, the beneficiary technically has to do it.
You will have to, if with a will, you will have to update your beneficiary and give them each, for example, if you have a wife and kids, right, you will have to call your 401k company and give them a specific shares that my wife received this much, my son received this much, and everybody receives this much. If you have situations like if you have minor children, then that's another problem on top of that, because they can receive and until the guardianship, or if they don't have any guardianship, they cannot utilize the money until they are 18 or adults.
Okay. So in all of this, basically, the trust is the best option.
Trust is very, there's a reason all the wealthy and all the big corporations use trust, because it gives much more protection, gives them assets. They can transfer their assets basically years and years after. Do you think that Rockefellers right now who are living, they're receiving money from their great grandfathers? That's the only thing happens through a trust, because trust continues and continue giving, and it can, the way you word it, you can go up to 100 years, or you can go as long as possible.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're
I do have
welcome.
one more follow-up question, but I will let others have a question first. If there is no, then I'll ask.
You can ask, and then we can wait for the second.
No, I was just saying, what is the cost of having a trust itself? I mean, I know there's an initial cost, and what is the cost of maintenance of a trust?
So maintenance is not very expensive. Maintenance is basically our firm, we do every year, we do at least one meeting with our clients to figure out if everything is accordingly, or if they need to change or update. And if it's a minor updations, then we just do it without any cost. But maintenance is not very expensive. The only thing is, once you set up, again, even whatever you pay for your trust, it will save you thousands and thousands of dollars in your probate, in your executor, in cost in transferring of your assets. So it is very, very convenient.
Great, thank you.
I'm going to show you, for example, I think few people left. So for example, this is a bundle. This is one of my clients. We do a bundle for this. So it goes into these, like this is a trust package. Then we have, this is a will package, comes in a will. As for, then we have power of attorney, and then we have advanced medical directive. Plus, we also do a quick claim deed for helping them transferring their assets to their trust. Then basically the whole bundle comes in, and you have all the necessary documents in one place.
A quick question about this.
Sure.
How often do I go and visit the trust? If I take a new property, do I go back to the trust? I have a big cash overflow, and I have boosted my bank account. Do I go and inform the trust or redo the trust, or it automatically is going to be updated?
So basically, let's say you bought up another property. Your property you are buying, you're going to buy under the trust name, right? Your deed is going to be under the trust name. Then you have a bank account. Once you transfer your bank account, as long as you're using your bank account, you don't need to do anything, because money is coming and going from a bank account. All your corporation, your businesses, you are filing as a regular anyway, but you are protecting your assets on.
Okay, so basically, I do not have to worry too much about, as long as I'm using the bank for buying the properties or anything, right?
Absolutely not. Yes.
Buying and selling, I mean.
Yeah, absolutely not. Once you have in a place, once your trust is active, in order to have a trust active, it has to have some kind of assets under, trust. So you transfer your bank account, you can transfer whatever you want. We don't suggest to transfer cars right away, because cars, once you transfer, you have to pay for your taxation again. So
okay, for the cars, it is different. Okay.
Yeah, cars. Once you buy a new car, you can title under your trust.
Okay. Okay.
Trust can own it, but your the current car, for God's sake, anything happened to anybody, the will also puts any assets into trust anyway, so you don't have to transfer your cars right away.
So I just have to call the trust guy and say, okay, here I am. I have a new car. I want to put that in trust. That is all I have to do?
That's amending a trust, but also when you go to register a car in MVA, your motor vehicle department, and they title your car, or your bank titles the car, you tell them, I want to title under this trust. This is my personal property trust, and this is the name of the trust, right?
Okay.
So your car will be titled under the trust.
Okay. So even if I bought my car a year ago, I can do it right now?
You can do it now, but I won't advise you do that, because then you have to pay your taxations again. It will consider you are selling your car to your trust. When you buy a new car, that's the best to do it. If you don't do your cars, if you don't do your cars and you have your full trust package, and your will always take care of it.
Okay. Okay.
The
Good,
will
good. Thank you
becomes,
very much.
yeah, the name of the will becomes a pour over will, because it will transfer, it will pour over all your assets into your trust upon the death.
Okay. Okay. So the car should automatically come, a will or no will, right?
I'm sorry?
The car, even if I don't do it with motor vehicle, it should automatically be coming under the trust,
So,
because as
yeah,
an asset.
yeah, the way
Just like
the way we create the trust package, comprehensive package, we set it up that whatever property is not included in trust, upon your death, it can be transferred to your trust easily without any hesitations.
Okay. So we are safe that way with the trust for
Yes.
a car asset.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
So what's the cost of creating a trust and transferring?
Well, it is depends on the situations. You have my number. You can give me a call, and then I can go over. Basically, it depends on the scenario, how complex trust is, how much assets we have to put it in, how much work. A trust can be 8 pages long. Trust can be 50 pages long. So it depends on the situations and complexity of the trust and all the documentations. So,
And
I'm sorry?
and you were saying that other than cars, all other assets can transfer without any tax implications?
Yeah, when you transfer your house, your bank account, your jewelry, your any other assets you have, your collectibles, you can transfer. The house, we gave you a quick claim deed. It costs you $10. You have to go through it. Your state clerk's office. You go through it, get the deed. If there's any liens or anything that you have to comply with, and once everything is taken care, you can transfer your deed to your house, your trust. Then your trust owns your property. Deed is owned by trust. Your insurance company, you tell them that instead of my personally owned, I put trust in place, and my trust owns the house now. So we hadn't had any problem with Progressive, Geico, and a lot of other insurance companies.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. If you want, I can. You have my number. If there's a cell phone number as well as toll-free number, whichever one you can call. I have that forwarded to my cell phone too. So also, if you want, you can text, send a message, and I can give you a call back on your phone.
Okay. Thank you.
Yasir bhai, I have a question.
Yes.
So if you have a mortgage on your house and you have some equity as well, so
Yes.
can you transfer it to trust, or your mortgage company will come and they say, well, you cannot transfer it because at that time, maybe 5 years back, it was you and the mortgage company?
So basically, majority of the time, majority of the people have a mortgage on it. There's very few people who paid off their house in US. Majority people have mortgage on it. So you are not dealing with the deed is transferring the property. Deed is transferring to your trust. So far we haven't had any problems. Even though one person actually become a benefit, they refinance their house and they refinance it and put the deed under the trust now. So there's a different way to do it, but there's no complications. It shouldn't have any problem if you have, your a mortgage on your house.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
शमन मामू लाइन पे अगर आपको कोई सवाल है तो मंसूर मोहसिन any clinic related questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
We have a trust already, but what if you want to? I know we own the trust, but if you wanted to transfer it to another lawyer, how would you go about doing that?
So basically, it depends on. First, we need to analyze if everything is good. Sometimes you don't even need to transfer it, but we have review some trust. We need to see it if everything is good, if everything is taken care of it. Then you probably don't need to transfer the trust. Is your trust, you already transfer your assets to it? Everything is transferred to your trust or no?
At the moment, it's very old. We need to update it quite a bit.
So living revocable trust, the benefit of revocable trust is that you can revoke anytime and you can redo anytime. It's up to you. You have my number. You can give me a call and then we can discuss. And if you want us to review your trust, we can do that. And then we can basically figure out what's the best possible option to do.
Thank you so much. Jazakallah.
No worries. Jazakallah. Any other questions? Hassan Saab, I think we scared some people. It dropped. The number is dropping.
भूख लग रही होंगी लेक्चर चले गए खाने को बगैर इन्फॉर्म किए.
Hopefully, on the web, on the seminars, we bring in some food, but there's no way to send. We can just send, pizza emojis and just pictures of food. Any other questions or concerns?
Yasir bhai, assalamu alaikum. This is Salman. I have a quick question regarding a charitable living trust. Can you say a few words about that, please?
So charitable living trust is basically when you set it up. There's a few things. One is, are you talking about generation skipping? Or are you just watching just basic charitable living trust?
Both, actually. And then the tax implications of being able to give to who we want while we're living, and then taking the tax benefits off that first year or two.
Yeah, so there's a generation skipping charitable tax trust. You can set it up. You can donate a property maybe 100 years later to some charity and get the benefit right away. That calls generation skipping. Your generations can keep on getting benefit until you can set it up a date 150 years later. This property will be donated to so and so charity. So that's a generation skipping trust. And charitable trust right now depends on your situation. Is you are putting a charity to somebody, there are any charity organizations, and you are getting benefited. That trust will be a revocable, non-revocable trust. You can, once you set it up, you cannot revoke it. You cannot change it. You cannot alter it. Secondary, if you set it up, distribution on your regular revocable trust, if you plan to use it, your assets, we will tell you that you put it under your trust instead of having a separate charitable, trust, because you cannot undo once you set it up. But benefit is once you give the charity, you can, depending on your scenarios, you can write off, you can deduct a lot of property, a lot of assets under it. Are you there, sir?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
One more question. So if you have properties under your trust, is there any difference in when you try to sell any of those properties? Is there any?
No, there's no complications. There's no problem. this concept and this trust been being used in US for years and years, many centuries. A lot of big businesses and wealthy already they put their properties in a trust anyway. Because just imagine if you have a 10% probate, if you have a $10 million property, that's $1 million going into probate. So that's one of the way that all the wealthy protect their assets. So there's no implications of selling it, buying it, using it. You are just becoming a manager of your trust, and all the assets, everything is in there.
Thank you.
I got a question.
Yes.
Which is better, whether it is a living trust or a revocable trust? Is it the same thing, or? And another part of the question is there asset value which in which at what level of asset value living trust is better, or it is better to be with the last will and testament only?
Okay, so basically asset value, if you have usually $500,000 plus properties, because I mean, like, if you have a will, if you have a house, it's always better to have a trust. But depending on cost effectiveness, if it's not that much assets, then you don't need a trust. You can just protect your family, guardianship and everything with just a will. But difference between a living and revocable and non-revocable. If you plan to use your property, sell, buy, change, do whatever, take it out, if you want to do that, then you need to use the revocable trust, because in case the worst case scenario, you can cancel the trust anyway. You can, alter it, you can amend it, you can change it. But if you have a non-revocable, then what happens that if let's say you put your assets in there, you put your house there, anything happen, you cannot amend it, you cannot change it. So that's why it's much, much better to have it, unless you have billions of dollars and you want to set it up for charities and charitable trust and a lot of other, future generation trust. Then you set it up as a revocable trust and non-revocable.
Thank you much.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Brother Zia, are you going to share the deck? I had another meeting, so I had to leave and come back here. So will you share this deck that you have, or is it?
No worries. I will send it. Hopefully I get emails of people on this when they sign up. I can share it. If not, then I will share with the Hassan Saab and Dilawar Saab, and they can also forward it too.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. You're too kind.
No worries. Any other questions, concern, anybody?
Last call.
Last call.
One more question. So if we appoint a manager, like if we have you do the trust, how easy to transfer the management to other?
What management are you talking about?
The trust management, basically. Do we need a trust manager, or you just ourselves become the trust manager and we can do whatever?
So the manager calls trustee. You are the number one trustee, and then if you want to put your wife or your brother or your family member a trustee afterward, you can have a trustee after that, and then trustee after that. You can name as many trustee as you want. So basically, we want to have like 2-3 different people in case if one can't fulfill, second one comes in. We personally, we don't become a manager, we don't become a trustee, because we are executing, we helping you write your trust. And we do not want control of your assets. You want to have your full control of your assets anyway.
Okay.
And you can also have a bank. You can have a bank as a trustee as well, if worst case scenario. They do charge a fees, but they do excellent job on managing your trust.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Yasir bhai, for the trust, is there any reoccurrence thing we have to do every year? Like for rental properties, you have to pay rental application fees, like $30 per year. For trust, is there any such thing called you have to do this checkmark thing every
No,
year?
sir. No, sir. Once you implement your trust, you are notarized, everything is ready to go. Basically, keep it safe. And unless when you buy or sell new property, once you establish a trust and you fully fund it, once your assets are gone, and when you're buying a new property will automatically, you will deed it under the trust. It will be keep on continuing same thing. You do not have to do major changes into it. When you buy a new property, then we need to add that property in your trust. So there's just a minor, maybe half an hour fees tab, but nothing major.
Okay. And you said that you have to keep in safe.
So this is the most important documents you have. Control all your assets and all your, basically have your house and your asset is titled under a trust. So I will keep it as safe as possible.
So you suggest you prefer somewhere in the bank lockers or house some kind of bomb-proof, fire-proof cabinet?
Let's hope and pray we don't need a bomb-proof, but fireproof.
I meant to say fireproof, but
yeah, fireproof. Yes, it's only $40-50 safe you can buy for the documents. Fireproof definitely, because that's more instant. A lot of people lost a lot of valuables with the fire. You can make copies, you can leave a copy in your bank account, bank box. You can have a copy with your most trusted relative as well, so you can have a multiple copies in a multiple different places.
Okay, that's good. So I can have multiple copies, one in a bank, one in a fireproof safe.
Once it's basically notarized, then you can execute and you can have a copy of it.
Okay. The reason I'm asking because I'm wearing an IT hat, so you have to have a disaster recovery.
Absolutely. This is we are taking as a protection. This is the whole scenario. Whole talk is on the protective on your assets. So if we can protect the documents which control the assets, then what's the purpose of it?
Yes.
Any other questions?
This is Fasi, just a follow-up question to that.
Sure.
So how will if you don't inform your kids or wife that you have a trust, how will they know there's a trust if you do die suddenly?
Well, we do need to inform them once we set it up. We tell all your trustee, whoever's you basically ask the permissions, or you let everybody know that, yeah, I'm putting you as a trustee of my, trust. Are you okay with that? I'm putting you as a guardianship for my children. Are you okay with that? I'm putting you executor on my state. Are you okay with that? Because
so I'm just thinking something like this, like if you got a trust, you have it, but maybe 30, 40 years later, if the kids don't remember or whatever, just thinking like from that perspective.
So basically 30, 40 years later, when we, when you're visiting each year, at least once, and you're talking to your kids and you're telling them, if the kids are young, obviously they don't know, but the people you put them in charge, they know, yeah, this is a trust. You can also, some states allow you to, put basically in a Rundle County that I live, the clerk's office and the courthouse, we can go and we can have a safety box for $5 for life, and we can register trust, will, or whatever, a power of attorney there, and they give us a number, and if anything happened to us, they will execute it.
Ah, got it. Thank you.
Excuse me, I got another question. How much time does it take to prepare the trust? Of course, it will be a time range depending upon the assets and the requirement, but normally how much time range to prepare a living trust?
So our usually it takes about 2 to 3 weeks for all the documentations to complete it, and then review and then execution and delivery. I'm a notary in Maryland and Virginia, so majority of the times I can help a notary. If not, then we have done in multiple different states: New York, Texas, Ohio, a lot of other states we have done it. So we just mail and we guide everybody and notarize it and witnessed it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Answer is no. Looks like it. Thank you, Yasir bhai.
Thank
for,
you very much, and I really appreciate everybody's time. And you have my number, you have my email address. Please don't hesitate to give me a call if you have any questions and concern. I would love to be assistance, and I really appreciate the opportunity to explain our services and explain ourselves to everybody.
Thank you, Khamar bhai, for facilitating this. Really been a very informative session. Thank you, Brother Zia, for all your help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a good information.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yasir bhai. Thank you, Hassan bhai.
Dilawar Saab, thank you very much. Really grateful for your opportunity. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
We'll talk further, inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah.
Kamal bhai, thank you.
I think Kamar Saab is gone.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Take care.
much.
You're
So we had a pretty good, like 14 or 17 people at one time.
One time we went all the way to 23 people.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Good.
So.
Okay, we'll talk later.
Inshallah, inshallah.
Khud Hafiz.
Khud Hafiz. Jazakallah.